In a stunning economic move, Canada has fired back at the United States. Tariffs, long a tool of pressure, are now tools of retaliation. The United States is scrambling. The trade war has escalated again. The White House did not see this coming, or maybe it did, but miscalculated. Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau stepped to the podium. His words were calm but sharp. We will defend our workers. We will defend our industries. And with that, tariffs on $15 billion of U.S. goods were announced. Agricultural products were hit, steel and aluminum, again targeted. Automobiles weren't spared either. Maple syrup diplomacy was over. The gloves were off. American farmers were the first to feel it. Wisconsin cheese, tariffed. North Dakota soybeans, tariffed. Michigan auto parts, tariffed. In retaliation for U.S. tariffs on Canadian lumber and dairy, Canada said enough was enough. Canadian officials released a detailed list. Targeting swing states was not coincidental. We're not looking for a fight, one official said, but we will not back down. The U.S. Chamber of Commerce issued a stark warning. This will cost American jobs. In Washington, confusion reigned. The president blamed Canada. Very unfair. They've always been taking advantage. Economic advisors scrambled for a response. Stock markets dipped on the news. The Dow shed 300 points within hours. Investors don't like trade uncertainty. Meanwhile, Canadian markets rose slightly, a sign of domestic confidence. Canada is not a pushover, said Chrystia Freeland. Behind closed doors, U.S. negotiators panicked. The trade balance sheet looked worse. Canada is America's largest trading partner. Disruptions could ripple through every sector. The auto industry braced for delays. Supply chains hung by a thread. Detroit was uneasy. We can't build without Canada, said a Ford executive. Farmers rallied at state capitals. We're caught in a political war. Analysts compared this to the China trade dispute. But this time, it's different. Canada was always seen as an ally, a peaceful neighbor, not an economic adversary. That perception has now changed. The retaliatory tariffs are strategic. They target key U.S. exports, but they're also symbolic. You tax us, we tax you. Old-fashioned tit for tat. Some lawmakers called for de-escalation. Senator Bernie Sanders said, "This trade war hurts workers on both sides." Republican senators were more muted. Many states were directly affected. Behind the scenes, lobbying intensified. Trade associations demanded exemptions. U.S. dairy producers feared losing shelf space in Canadian supermarkets. American whiskey, hit with a 10% duty. Harley-Davidson motorcycles, more expensive north of the border. Social media erupted. Hashtags like #tariff trouble trended in both countries. Canadian consumers vowed to buy local. "No more Budweiser for me," said one TikTok user. American consumers were warned of price hikes. The cost of imported lumber soared. Housing projects were delayed. "This adds $5,000 to every new home," said a builder in Ohio. Economists predicted slowed growth. Not recession yet, but damage. The Federal Reserve watched nervously. Interest rates were left unchanged. "Uncertainty is our greatest enemy," said one Fed governor. Canadian central bankers echoed the sentiment. Meanwhile, Mexican officials observed quietly. NAFTA's spirit was dead. USMCA was under strain. Trudeau hinted at renegotiation. All agreements must be respected. The U.S. disagreed. Canadian industries rallied behind their government. Unions, surprisingly, aligned with big business. "Keep U.S. pressure off our workers," said a steel union head. Cross-party unity was rare, but real. Parliament stood together. Even opposition leader Pierre Poilievre backed the response. "We will not kneel to tariffs." American businesses began rerouting orders, seeking alternatives in Europe and Asia. The Buy American push clashed with global supply chains. Protests broke out in several U.S. cities. Farmers dumped milk in front of state houses. Workers held signs, "Jobs over tariffs." Canadian demonstrators marched in Ottawa. "Respect Canada," they chanted. The media jumped on the story. Headlines screamed, "Canada strikes back." Opinion pieces questioned U.S. strategy. Late-night hosts joked about maple mayhem. But real people felt the pain. Prices went up. tensions remained. In a surprise twist, former President Obama weighed in. "Trade should unite, not divide," he tweeted. Trump fired back. "Obama let them walk all over us." As tensions mounted, both leaders faced pressure. Biden administration aides sought secret back channels. Trudeau's team agreed to exploratory talks. No summit was confirmed, but possible. American retailers started canceling orders from Canadian brands. While politicians played chess, real people paid the price. A Vermont maple farmer shut his gates. "Canada just blocked my syrup exports." A steelworker in Ontario nodded. "We've been feeling that for years." The pain was mutual, but unequal. For Canada, this was survival. For America, it was a power play gone wrong. Diplomats tried to patch the cracks. Behind closed doors, G7 nations got involved. Pressure mounted for a bilateral meeting. Biden agreed to a quiet sit-down. Trudeau insisted it be constructive, not performative. The meeting was tense, but happened. Photos showed awkward handshakes. Smiles didn't reach the eyes. Inside the room, compromise floated. A phased tariff reduction, agricultural carve-outs, joint review mechanisms. But no deal, not yet. Politics still ruled. Midterms loomed in the U.S. Trudeau faced growing heat at home. "You're escalating too far," said critics. "You're not pushing hard enough," said others. In the Midwest, pressure boiled. Apple growers couldn't ship to Canada. Car manufacturers delayed rollouts. "Tariffs are the new inflation," one economist said. Prices surged for basics: wood, milk, ketchup, eggs, tires. Even pet food was impacted. Walmart and Target warned customers. Expect higher prices due to trade disruptions. Amazon rerouted warehouses. Delivery times lengthened. Smaller sellers couldn't compete. They began shutting down. Canadian e-retailers celebrated. "This is our moment," said a Shopify executive. Made in Canada campaigns exploded. Celebrities joined in. Ryan Reynolds tweeted, "Buy Canadian, eh?" Drake posted a photo with Canadian vodka. "We ride together." American artists fired back. Kid Rock launched a Tariff This tour. Country stars played anti-tariff ballads. Culture war met trade war. TikTok was flooded with protest videos. "We just want fair prices," said a Canadian mother. "Stop punishing us," said an Indiana farmer. Trucking companies felt the squeeze. Border delays increased. Customs officers were overwhelmed. Some quit, others protested. "We're not built for a trade war," said one. Port authorities agreed. Back in D.C., policy hawks stayed defiant. "We must protect American jobs." But job numbers declined. January job report showed 150,000 fewer roles. Tariffs were a root cause. The White House spun it differently. Temporary pain for long-term strength. Critics called it spin. Canadian unions didn't wait. They threatened a national strike. "If tariffs increase, we walk out." Talks began to avoid shutdowns. Freight companies panicked. Holiday shipping season was already doomed. Christmas 2025? Expect delays. Backroom deals were discussed. Political staffers leaked documents. The media got hold of tariff impact memos. One line stood out: projected loss, $45 billion in bilateral trade by Q3. U.S. governors formed a coalition. "We need this solved," they demanded. A bipartisan letter went to the Oval Office. "Stop the bleeding." Business groups followed. "This is not sustainable." Protests reached D.C. Tractors rolled up to Capitol Hill. Banners read, "No farmers, no food, no trade war." Trudeau addressed Parliament. "We did not start this, but we will finish it." Applause echoed. Biden spoke a day later. "We are open to compromise, not surrender." Compromise began to look like the only way out. Meanwhile, black markets formed. Cross-border tariff runners emerged, buying cheese in Quebec, smuggling lumber across Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Social media mocked it. Call it tariff and furious? Memes went viral, but the frustration was real. Tourism plummeted. Americans canceled Canada trips. Canadians stopped visiting Florida and Vegas. Airlines lost millions. Airbnb hosts begged for guests. Even hockey wasn't safe. NHL games saw protests. A U.S. goalie refused to play in Toronto. "Not until tariffs end," he posted. Schools teaching economics had a field day. "This is a real-world case study," said one professor. Students debated policy in real time. By May, food prices were unbearable. Canada considered price caps. The U.S. looked into subsidy expansion. Emergency legislation was drafted. Then came the turning point. A secret meeting in Geneva. WTO diplomats brokered a truce framework. Canada and the U.S. agreed on a pause. Tariffs would freeze, but not drop. Negotiations would resume. Trudeau said, "We'll talk, but with dignity." Biden, "Let's end this quietly." The markets reacted positively. Dow rebounded 600 points. TSX followed suit, but damage lingered. Lost contracts, bankruptcies, layoffs, consumer distrust. Trade analysts warned, recovery won't be fast. Trust takes years to rebuild. Global players will fill the gaps. Meanwhile, some saw opportunity. Indian exporters eyed the U.S. and Canada. Australia stepped in on grain supplies. Europe began dominating the auto parts scene.